Okay, my name is Isabella Wright. I'm 2020 NABOR Global Business Committee Chair, and I would like to welcome all of you at our Global Edge webinar today with our special speakers, Brett Brown and Pat Pitocki. They are both past chair of the Global Committee, past presidents. Pat was 2014 NABOR president and Brett was 2009 NABOR president. And of course, they are our CIPS instructors. Today, we will have a webinar about cultural norms and how important is the cultural awareness when you work with international customers. And we will talk about Canada, UK, Germany, and France. So I'm going to give the mic to our speakers, and thank you again for volunteering this time for us.
Well, thank you, Isabella, and welcome everybody. This is a little program that Pat and I kind of put together, and we certainly hope you enjoy it. Have a little bit of fun with it so that everybody have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about what we should and maybe shouldn't do while we're visiting or working with customers from another country. So just to give you a little bit of a genesis of where we and how we got to where we're, what we're going to talk about today is the Naples Area Board of Realtors for some years now, since 2009 when we started our Global Business Committee, has started to track what countries we get our foreign direct investment in real estate from. We get it all the way from Swaziland to Korea, all over the world. We have now got somewhere over 65 countries that have had foreign direct investment directly here in Naples, Florida. So don't be surprised if at some point you find somebody at your door waiting to look to purchase property from another country that is from somewhere that you just had never even heard of. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about maybe how to do some research. When we finish, we're going to give you a few guides to help you do the research and do that dossier to be able to find out what you need to know about the background of that country to be able to work with that specific client. Today we're going to focus on 4 countries. We used to do like a top 10 list at NABOR of who does the most foreign direct investment in our market. And we always have found that Germany, France, and the UK have always been shuffling between second, third, and fourth. Always one moving over the other. It just depends upon currency changes, what's going on with the cultures or the environments of the two countries, or the relationships between the US and those countries. But number one has always been, in the last decade that we've been doing our research for it, has always been Canada. And Canada has been anywhere from 50 to 75% of the foreign direct investment of real estate in Southwest Florida, in the Naples market specifically. So we're going to focus on those 4 countries, and we're going to talk to you today about some of the little things you might not want to do as far as gestures go, and then how you're going to work with the real estate company. So Pat, if you just give me a second, I'm going to get started here with the PowerPoint, and then we'll let you get started here with some numbers that we have from the populations and things. So just want to bear with me 1 second. And here we go. Yes, okay, there you go.
Okay, good. Well, welcome everyone. We're really happy.
It works!
Yeah, good. Now we're done.
We didn't expect it. We're done.
We're done.
It works.
We're done. Well, we do appreciate everyone's time. We also know that one of your primary goals is to provide not just service, but excellent service. So what we want to do, first of all, is just sort of give you a little bit of a touch point so that you have some idea of the size of the country with whom you're dealing. And please remember again, as Brett said, these are the 4 international suppliers of most of our international RDI, just direct foreign investment in Naples, Florida, and in Florida in general. Here's the population of Canada, 37,694,085. These are figures as of July of 2020, so they're fairly recent, the most recent we could find. The median age, I think, is really interesting, 41.8. Germany is next at 80,159,662. It's a real lesson in reading numbers today. Median age of 41.8 years, followed by France, 67,848,156, with a median age of 41.7, and Canada, and the UK, the UK, 65,761,117. Let me say that again. Canada at, oh, I said it backwards again because we're scooting things around here. The UK is 65 billion.
Not billion.
Billion.
Million.
65 million, numbers are not my specialty. 65,761,117 with a median age of 40.6, which was very surprising for many people. By contrast, the USA has a population of 333 billion approximately.
Million.
Did I say billion again?
Yes.
I'm
taking numbers from now on. Next time we do this, we're going to switch these
We're
slides
gonna
around.
switch.
You're going to.
Fred's reading the
I'll
numbers.
do the numbers and you do them.
By comparison, the USA has a population of 333 million and a median age, ironically, of 38.5 years. So it just gives you a little bit of a touch point in terms of size. We are huge. However, each of these countries has very representative populations and median age that we really need to pay attention to when we're crafting our business. And I do apologize.
Oh, Pat, I'm just kidding. I just glad to have you help us here. Okay, so let's take a look at Canada and some things that we, definitely want to look at. And the PowerPoint will be available. My understanding is, I think, Cheyenne, we are recording this. Is that correct?
We are recording this.
Good. Okay, so you'll have that opportunity then to review this. But I always think it's kind of a good idea to keep a little bookmark in your pocket that might have all these items listed down about the do's and don'ts. So one of the things we want to make sure that when we're greeting Canadians, you want to use a firm handshake. I know that when we talk about a lot of other countries, there's sometimes that we don't do handshakes. But in Canada, we want to use a firm handshake. They have a very open and friendly demeanor. It's very easy to get along. People always say, just like we always find out, aren't Canadians Americans? I mean, they're the same thing. Everybody looks at them the same, but there's so many differences in how the structure of a real estate deal is done in Canada and the United States. It's very important that we kind of understand those differences, and that's why Pat and I will always encourage you to attain your CIPS designation, because that's just one key, that you go through all these things and you'll have a book that'll help you keep learning about what the things you should and shouldn't do. Smiling and a nod, verbal wave, verbal greetings and things like that, that's pretty much. As far as your personal space, and this is something you always want to be aware of, depending upon which country you're dealing with. In Canada, it's relatively close. It's like 3 to 4 feet. If we're dealing with the Quebecan, people from Quebec, you're going to be a little bit closer because that's French Canadian, and they're like France, which we'll get into a little bit later. And proximity, closeness is much closer. The things you can wave, beckon with your fingers. Make sure your palm's up and you're like scooping if you're doing that. Circle, the OK symbol is okay, using the thumb and the index finger. And the one thing that we want to make sure, and there's some other countries, and we'll get into this because this symbol means a lot of different things in different countries. But this is victory, and it's an insult if I turn my hand around, okay? So if I have my palm in, that's not victory. That means something else, and it's similar to a gesture without this finger. How's that, guys? So a backslap for close friends is something that's tolerated. It's not, near a problem. And goodbye is generally an entire wave with the facing outward hand. We want to show sincerity, and we do that through direct eye contact. That is something that they're going to look at and think that you're not telling the truth or you have something to hide if you don't use direct eye contact with Canadians. So that's something that we want to be very, very careful of. No casual poses in business. You don't put your ankle on your knee when you're crossing your legs. You cross your legs at your ankles, okay? And Pat's got some more things she's going to talk to you about.
You know, one of the real worries with Canadian people, I think, as opposed to working with USA people, people assume Canadians are just exactly like the people from the United States of America, and they are not. They have different cultures, depending on whence they've come, so we really need to be very, very concerned about that. They tend to be very civil and very polite. They will politely look at you and disappear from your life if something has gone wrong or if you have made some type of cultural faux pas. Please remember that they really are aligned with the European system when writing dates, and sometimes that can be a little bit confusing when you're dealing with contracts and working in business. Do not interrupt. They consider that to be really rude, except for the...
What if I was from Quebec?
But, if you
Am I allowed to interrupt you? Maybe we can just talk. Yeah.
And we're okay with COVID-19. Don't get worried. But the French-speaking Quebecois are accustomed to interrupting, but not so the majority of the British or English-speaking Canadians. So try to allow them. Don't be impatient, and try to allow them to finish. Also, they tend to be a little more formal. I always encourage people, when in doubt, start out formal. You can always go down and become informal. I can take off my jacket, so can Brett, but when we enter a little more formal, the same with names. So I would introduce Mr. Brown. If he says to me, call me Brett, that's fine. But I can't go back from calling him Brett to Mr. Brown. So start out always formal when you're dealing with people from Canada, and as you become a little more established and establish that rapport and relationship, you can always become more informal if that's what you wish to do. So.
And one thing to always remember when we're doing this is that, individuals are individuals, and things can vary wildly, as far as it. But one of the things you really have to be concerned with is the diversity that you'll find with the people within Canada. And one of the things is, they have a ton of nationalities that live in Canada, from China, India, all over the world there. So you want to be aware that when you're dealing with someone maybe from Canada, but they might have some other cultural differences and backgrounds. So it's always best to check that thing. Real estate in Canada, it's basically based on facts. That when they're making a decision, it's all analytical. They don't put feelings in it. There's no emotion in there. They're very punctual, and morning meetings are definitely preferred. There's no business done in someone's home. That's basically for their own personal privacy. And gifting is always good on an arrival, nothing ostentatious, and generally we want to do something very, very modest. One caution is about French wine. If you're going to do wine, make it a French wine. That's always good. I added one little bullet point here that, Pat, you weren't aware of, but I was talking to some people who are some very good friends that we have up in Canada about the licensing laws in Canada. And that Canada has probably one of the most strict licensing laws and most difficult real estate licenses to get anywhere in the world. You have to take 5 courses, pass a test for each course, and then you have to work for a broker for some period of time before you're allowed to sell real estate.
It really sounds good.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea. Maybe we should take some considerations from our northern friends. One other thing I wanted to bring up about Canada is, because of the close working relationship, there's an awful lot of opportunity for us to learn about them by attending things like Realtor Quest, which is always done in May during this COVID environment. Who knows how we're going to do things in the future, but if that's something you want to keep your eyes on, and we'll go through some websites that you'll be able to have the opportunity to work with for Canada.
As Brett mentioned, Canada is a large country and very varied. There truly are lots of different ethnic backgrounds that you're dealing with. When in doubt, I encourage people to mirror their behavior. Watch what others are doing, what your customers are doing, and mirror that. You can tell if you invade their personal space. As Brett said, it might be a little bit different, person to person. But if people back away from you, that's a definite sign that you're invading them. If you're dealing with someone from Quebec, they usually greet people without the COVID-19 situation with what's called le bise, air kisses on the cheeks, 2 cheeks. I don't know right now if that is done. Yeah, left, right.
As far as I know,
it's still being done, I think, because there's no contact.
Yes.
But I don't know right now
Mask.
what to. With masks, it would be interesting for sure. They have very, very strict advertising regs, also regulations and guidelines, so that you will have to explain the information that you are supplying to them, because we have some regulations, but theirs tend to be, I think, a little more strict. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
They also have more of a governmental support system, and we need to be really careful that we do not offend culturally anyone who has that type of belief. I believe realtors should be able to work with any customers regardless of their political, religious, or any other type of belief. So we want to make sure that we stay sort of neutral. They also tend to be very civil. You know that whole notion that they're very nice and very polite, very civil. They love hockey. Please do not talk about hockey if you don't know a diddly-do about hockey, because that could really be a mistake. They do love hockey. If you love hockey, that gives you some kind of a little bit of a linkage there. Again, as Brett said, they tend to keep their home as a personal space, and they do not entertain for business. Generally in their home, if you are ever in the home, also please observe the whole notion that you would not go into any private rooms, a kitchen, as well as any other private rooms without an invitation to do that, because that might be overstepping. Now, they're so civil and nice, they may not say anything to you. They would just, when you leave, say, never again do I want those people. They also crave their own identity. They are often merged. And I remember the first time I did business in South America, I introduced myself as, I'm an American. And they said in Brazil, so are we.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
That's right.
They're South American, we're North American. Canadians are North American too. So for us to keep saying we're Americans, implying that they're not, sets up, possibly for some, a negative interaction. So we want to make sure that, you know, with some Canadians, there's sort of a little bit of a tug between the USA and Canada, because we are close neighbors, yet we have borders, and we have a different set of cultural norms. So be careful. They look like us, but they're not. They're not citizens of the U.S. Good?
Absolutely. So now let's talk a little bit about Germany.
Do we want to take some questions?
Oh, well, yeah, we
first
can do
at
that.
this
If you,
point?
if we have any questions, Cheyenne, if you can check for us and see if there's any questions anybody might have about Canada or anything we might be able to answer for them.
We didn't really invite you, but feel free. We both know, we both operate a little more freewheeling than some people. So if you have a question, we know really difficult for us to say, hold it for an hour.
Yeah, really.
So if you send it in through the Q&A, Cheyenne, you want them to use, or chat.
Q&A would be great.
Q&A would be perfect. Then Cheyenne is wonderful and is helping us with that. And we can maybe help you if we're able, and we can, you know, stop after each country really and just ask if you have any questions. We didn't really set it up for that, Cheyenne, so we might just move on.
Yeah, I see no questions at this time.
Okay, real good. So let's get started with Germany. Wie geht's?
Jawohl.
Ich took 2 Jahre in Hochschule. Meine Deutsch ist nicht so gut. So gestures there, one of the things that we want to do at the initial, again, we're dealing with a very firm handshake when we're dealing with Germans. They're very formal, very reserved in public, and it's going to be very difficult to talk about anything personal between things. It's pretty much going to be business is business, and that's what we do. To raise a hand, you know, palm out, index finger up, and you don't wave or beckon, you know, especially like at a restaurant or anything like that. You don't want to, you don't want to use those gestures. You want to be very careful. When sitting, again, it's, you know, ankle to ankle. You don't want to put your knee over your knee, okay? So you just want to be kind of careful of those things. One other thing is extremely offensive to Germans, especially in a business environment or generally anytime when you're having conversation, is chewing gum. It's viewed as extremely rude. When you're having a meeting, it's a lot like what would happen if, say, I was in one of the Asian markets. The first person entering the room is going to be the eldest or the highest ranking person, and that's who you're pretty much going to want to focus your attention on, and that's who's going to be probably the decision maker. Audiences, when you're at a theater, or if you're, I'm trying to think of someplace else you might think.
Yeah, any large group,
gathering,
where you have to be quiet.
Yeah, they use respect for the show. And basically what you want to do is you're going to be very, very quiet. And in our comment here, even it says, even a cough will be shh. So, you know, you want to make sure you do it. Business cards are very important. Now, we don't have the formality of handing the business card like we would in the Asian market, but what's on that business card is going to be very critical. Your title, maybe accolades, those are going to be key things. Certifications, designations, they're definitely going to be looking for that if they're from, you know, from Germany. Eye contact, again, is very, very crucial here. It eludes trust. It says that, you know, you want to keep that direct eye contact. Any aversion from that is going to be perceived as you're hiding something or you're not being truthful with them. Don't ever put your hands in your pockets. So there's some things that we're going to have to learn when we're dealing with the, you know, with Germans that are purchasing property here, that we're going to make sure that we avoid. And we might have to practice some personal behavior, because a lot of times we just take it for granted, you know, it's okay, and stick your hands in your pockets. That's considered an insult to Germans. A smile is equal to affection, okay? So you want to be a little bit careful there about smiling as a gentleman to somebody's wife. You know, there can be some misconceptions there. So you want to be very, very careful about that. Personal space is a little bit larger than what we would use as U.S. or Britain. And basically the easiest way to do that, and we just put it in here, is your distance with Germans is generally about the reach of a handshake, plus give yourself about 6 inches to a foot. Again, Pat, you kind of brought it up. It's really important. You'll know you're too close if they start backing up. Okay, so you just want to be aware of your distance and spacing so that they feel comfortable. When you're in a room and you're in a business meeting, I don't care if it's 95 degrees in the room, everybody's got a jacket and tie on, don't take your jacket off or tie until the host does, okay? Make sure that you just kind of follow their lead. Same thing with, you know, some other things. Pat,
Absolutely.
take over some things about addressing folks.
Sure. As Brett had mentioned, there is a great deal of respect for learning, education, training, and that's expanded beyond just a college degree. It also includes training and learning in any of the trades or the other fields. So it's very, very important that if someone has earned an appellation or whatever, that you use that. So if I were meeting a German, I would, and Brett has a doctorate. Right?
Yes, okay,
right?
yeah,
so
I do now.
I would address Brett as Herr Dr. Brown. Now, he might say to me, oh, you know, just call me Brett. Then it's fine. But if I do not acknowledge his appellation, his doctorate, his degree of competency, knowledge, and status, then he could be offended. Not everyone would be offended, but some people would. So essentially, make sure that you do that. I believe language is really, really important. And I think it tells us a lot about the culture. English is derived from German, Hochdeutsch, but English has gone away from declensions and so on. In German, there is still a familiar you and a formal you, which goes to show you that they have a little more formality built in, and they want you to use that. Probably 20 years ago, in business, you would never use the word Frau, which originally meant wife, for someone who was not married. But in business, you do now for an adult, whether that adult female is married or not. And that's a real change. Fräulein is the unmarried younger young lady, and Frau would be in business anyway. Married or not, you don't have to worry about knowing that personal fact.
Kind of like the Ms.
Absolutely,
in the US.
sort of like
Frau
the Ms.
is like the Ms.
Perfect
in the US.
example. Yeah, I think it's a perfect example. They tend to be very polite, and when entering, always say hello, always say goodbye. I have very close German friends. Whenever we go to their house, we walk in the door and take off our shoes. Immediately, it's considered, not with all German folks, but it's something that's nice to ask about, I think, you know? And usually if that's their desire, they have a little tray or something to put them on. But you can be very direct with German folks. They greatly respect facts, data, but they really do not ever disagree on a personal level. They can disagree about the facts, but that doesn't translate into, oh, gee, I don't like bread because I don't. He doesn't agree with me.
They won't say that.
They won't say that. They'll just sort of disappear and say, I don't think that's the right person for me. So really, really what is key is, please make sure you know your stuff. If you don't know your facts, your knowledge, your market knowledge of everything, please do not say something. If it proves to be untrue, that's it. It's done.
Business is over.
Business is pretty much over. Yeah.
I think that one thing I always looked at with Germans is, you know, we used to have the Ford theory where you always put family organization. When I looked at the German, clients, generally you got to think I'm working with an engineer. I'm working with someone who wants to know the facts, the statistics, everything. So you want to be well armed before you start working with someone
like a spreadsheet. I will tell you just in passing, I have had one experience that was a negative one that we would encourage you to avoid, but we had a realtor who was very, very warm, fuzzy, and went over and hugged the children of German folks with whom she had just met. And that was enough to end that interrelationship. And so I wouldn't want you to sort of make that mistake, even if you're that type of person. I think right now, all of us are experiencing, Brett and I both commented on, we have to tell you we're okay, we have our masks, we're following directives, but...
I'm going to get my shot as soon as we're done.
We've had our shots, we're okay. But right now, it's very difficult. I'm sure you wouldn't touch people, but don't touch people without permission and a real relationship formed.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's something you definitely want to watch out for.
Yeah.
So again, taking on that same notion as what we talked about with having that engineering background and stuff, when they're dealing with their real estate in Germany, it's all facts and dates. There's no emotion in it whatsoever. It's absolutely, it is what it is. They're very risk adverse, okay? So they're not going to come out and say, hey, I've got this potential and blah, blah, blah. They're going to want to know the facts. You show me, if I'm going to buy a property for rental income, I want to see a history of exactly what this type of property or what this specific property has produced over the last years, and then I'll make my decision. But they're very, very risk adverse. It's a slow dance when you're dealing with Germans. Basically, the decision-making is a negotiation process. And what does that tell us about working with them in this market? Right now, things are flying off the shelf, in real estate, literally it is a seller's market under current conditions. And if someone's not ready to move right away, they're going to lose a deal. You might, if you're working with a German client, you might lose 3 or 4 deals before they finally, would come to a decision. But they're going to be time, and you definitely do not want to rush them. But once they do make a decision, they'll follow through with it and complete the transaction. And again, dates are written in the EU style system, so we want to do it. Now, if I'm traveling to Germany and I'm going to go meet with an office there, a real estate office in Germany, you want to plan this, at least book your appointments at least a week in advance. And you don't want to use Wednesdays and you don't want to use Fridays. Generally, on Friday afternoon, offices can close, around 2 or 3. They take long vacations. Now, here's something that might help you in your little toolbox. If you handle rentals for seasonal people, one of the advantages that I had back when we were developing property in Bonita Springs, we had 40 different seasonal rental properties. And everybody wanted January through April or November through March or whatever it was, those 6 months pretty much taken care of in Southwest Florida by people in the United States. Germans' vacation can run anywhere from June, July, August, September. Unbelievable opportunity for months for them to come down and get your customer some rental income in months that they just wouldn't expect. Now, they're going to want to negotiate and you can make a deal, but just also, this is money that you just wouldn't expect. So it's something that you might want to check into. You definitely want to be punctual. Being late is considered an insult to a German, so you always want to do that. And you always want to make sure that you check emails. They might not, and certainly when they're on vacation, be checking in on their emails. So one of the things you might run into is you've sent an email, it was during June, July, August, September, one of those months that they're on their 6-week vacation, and they're not going to pay attention to it, they're not going to open it up. Work is work, play is play. That's generally how their attitude is. They use a 24-hour clock, kind of like military time. They are tough and direct negotiators. I've had plenty of people from Germany that I've had to negotiate with, and
Good deal.
That's it. They got to have a good deal, and it's it. They do not, compromise, because compromise, in their opinion, feels like a failure. And believe me, they will walk into a situation expecting 110%, and they might settle for 100%. So those are just some of the things you want to watch out for. Punctuality does not always apply to delivery dates. So if you're expecting something shipped from Germany, that's just a little bit different. Excuse me. I'm going to lose my voice.
Okay.
Yes, I was going to say, you go ahead.
Oh, okay, sure. Essentially, when you're working in business, there's no humor. It's kind of as though they work for the IRS here. Those people have no humor either. Essentially, they're really all business. When we're doing business, it's all business. When we're not, as Brett said, when we're on vacation or whatever, no business. It's 100% to 0, and there's no humor. They're not really looking to be entertained. They're looking for you to supply them with data, facts, and information that they will be able to rely on to make decisions. And as we always do all of our conduct of real estate in writing, so are they used to doing that. But as Brett said, it's a slower process, and you really have to learn to read the people to know that we're in the process. It's also okay to say to them, look, this is the pace of the market right now. As Brett said, we have a fast-moving market. So you need to educate them about that, explain to them about that. If they are not ready, they will not move. But they at least understand, I looked at this property, 2 days from now I might be interested, it's gone. And they won't be angry with you. They will be angry if they do not have the facts to know that sort of background. The other element is that when they go to lunch or whatever, there's no business. When they're eating, and I think that's almost a European kind of concept. We sometimes eat at our desk or whatever, they don't do that. It's okay, I'm at work or I'm not. If I'm not going to do business. I'm just going to focus on the meal or whatever. There's one really hard and fast rule, and of course it applies. if you are in Germany, but moving furniture is an insult. They place furniture so that it sort of communicates the power structure in an office or the like. And if you go in, sometimes people from the U.S. will kind of do, well, just I'm going to move.
It's Deutschland feng shui.
That too. Just do not move the furniture. That is really considered an insult. But again, as Brett said, they may not call you on that. They may just say, not really happy dealing with that particular person.
And that kind of brings up a point, because what you find is a lot of times, and especially with France, Germany, French might tell you, but
Yeah.
with the four we're dealing with here, certainly with the Brits, certainly with the Germans, they're not going to tell you if you mess up, folks.
Yeah.
So you want to know these things in advance, because if you go into a meeting and you make a faux pas, they won't tell you anything, but they'll go back and tell their friends, whatever you do, don't deal with this one,
Right.
because they don't know what they're doing.
No, I think that's very, very important. I think we are not used to that in the same degree. We, I guess, deal with a little...
Tell somebody. I mean, we'll let them know.
Yeah,
You know,
I guess maybe we're a little more forgiving, but at any rate, we have, they're very slow, methodical planners. That's why if you are a data person, as Brett said, I think that's terrific advice. They love spreadsheets. Think of them as like a CPA. They love that data for multi-years. It's not just, gee, last month this happened. They want all of that data. They consider facts to be a treasure, and they want them to be accurate. And Brett already mentioned punctuality is important. They are very proud of the German language. There were two languages, Hochdeutsch and Niederdeutsch. Their language is Hochdeutsch, and there is sort of they prize that. I don't want to say it's arrogance, because I don't think they all are arrogant, but they do really prize that. If you discount that or a negative towards that, I think that would be viewed as a negative to them. Education, as we mentioned, is very important. I have very good friends who are very highly educated in the hospitality field. That is very respected there. It's not just so-and-so has a master's degree in this or that. They do prize education and learning. They tend to be private people. As I said to you, knock on doors, do not enter, and invade any private space. Their home is private space. If they open their home to you, they're opening public rooms only. And so don't sort of invade any of that. The same with personal questions. They really do not respond well to personal questions. We are very accustomed, as Brett mentioned, to talk about family. Oh, do you have children? That is considered a bit invasive to many of them. So if they offer that information, fine. But to ask them about it is something that they really want to separate. They like to separate their personal business from the business of business. They're going to state their opinion of the U.S., of anything, rather directly, and you cannot be personalizing that. One of the ways I think that my own view expanded, we lived out of the country for one, and I think that's always very important for people. But also, when I was teaching, if you take a topic like the Second World War, for example, and you read the accounts from Russia, Germany, France, Britain, the U.S., we usually read only the U.S. account. We're not familiar with the views there. And there are some times when a view might be considered negative, and we just don't want you to worry about personalizing that. They are avid supporters of soccer, which they call football. It is extremely important in their culture. They love the outdoors as well. Again, if you know a lot about football, soccer, fine. If you do not, it's just not something you can fake, I don't think, at that point. They do have business lunches more than breakfasts or dinners. Be on time with the meal, and they usually start a meal, whatever the meal is, with some kind of an appetizer or a drink, just so you know. It's rare to be invited to the home of a German. If it is, please understand that that is really important to them.
That's a compliment, and you definitely want to avoid business at that point.
It sure is no business, and when you walk in, make sure and ask, if you see shoes gathered, oh, gee, would you let me take off my shoes? Ask, and I think that you'll be fine. They're very intent about utensils. They like everything to be precise, folks. These are people, as what Brett said, they're sort of like engineers or whatever. They like everything to be precise. Orderly and organized, not, okay, what do you think we should do now? Kind of people. Again, don't move furniture, and they don't expect expensive gifts, but if you were to bring a hostess or a host gift, please make sure that, I think the very best advice we could give you would be to bring something from your area to give to them. You do not want to go out to a wine store and buy wine. They might consider that an insult because that wine might not be what they would buy. So make sure, especially if you can buy something that's not exported and doesn't reach Germany, it's really, really clear. And please don't buy beer. They think...
Water?
They think they are the makers of beer. So whether it's October or not, I would avoid that at all cost. I would bring something maybe from your own culture. If you were visiting somebody, that might be some good advice, and try not to do that. So we just made a few suggestions about gifts to give and gifts maybe to avoid. Are you recovered now, dear?
I think so. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly.
That's okay.
What it is. So a few more things that we want to be aware of when we're dealing with people from Germany is the civil servants rule.
Yeah.
We don't give gifts, okay? So like if I'm trying to think of an example of that.
Well, if you went to an office and somebody helped you, or,
Right. The
get a
front
pen.
desk person or something like that, those are things you definitely want to avoid.
Yeah.
You are going to check your coat if you go to a theater, okay? So just be prepared for that kind of a thing. You always look at the Mercedes-Benz emblem and their emphasis on quality. Quality in manufacturing is everywhere, and it is revered far, far more and more important than quantity. Okay, Adidas is in Germany now.
It is. Well, Adidas it's the first, ADI is the first three letters of the first name, DAS, the first three letters of the last name. And a lot of people don't know that, so just know that, because they're very proud of that.
And that's obviously a worldwide company that people definitely recognize. The German reunification is very, very important. I think I would be very careful, and I wouldn't discuss it with it, but I think it's something that you really need to understand. Now, if you take the Americas course through the CIPS course instruction, there's a big section that they cover the reunification and what's going on with Eastern and Western Germany, what it was and what it is today, and what's impacted both East Germany and West Germany because of those things. So I think it's something that you really need to brush up on and understand, especially if your client's coming from one or the other side of, Old East, Old West. And again, then we get into a little bit more, it's going to depend upon their age, because, the younger millennials wouldn't even remember what a divided Germany was. So there's some real key factors there. It talks again, I think we've already brought that up, about 6-week vacation periods. It's paid vacation for everybody that works there, so you have some very unexpected times that you can get people from Germany here. Certainly, again, it's like June, July, August, September, which, wow, what a great, benefit for our industry, because we've got people coming in when the market's not normally very busy, barring the way things are today. Auto accidents on Autobahn Common. If you've ever gone there, it is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I'm sitting there looking at this car and I'm going like, I looked at the thing. I mean, I knew we were flying by cars, and I'm looking, and we're doing 230 kilometers an hour, on the Autobahn. And it's like, people have to get out of your way.
Yeah.
If you get hit in the rear on the Autobahn, it's your fault.
Right.
You're supposed to pull over to the right. So I would
And
imagine...
they're really good drivers.
Yeah, they're very good drivers, but I would imagine if they came here and got on I-75 in Southwest Florida, they might have some issues with some of these people driving 65 in the left-hand lane.
In the wrong lane?
In the wrong lane. So that's it. One of the things you're going to definitely notice is that building a relationship with someone from Germany takes time. They're very, very slow in that process of developing a friendship. And once you have them for life. And as long as you keep the faux pas out of the mix, not only will they come back again and again, they'll bring their friends and they'll tell their coworkers and everybody else that you're the person to work with when they're dealing with property in Southwest Florida. So those are all real key things. They have a very large respect for order and for discipline, which we've kind of covered, I think, enough that, that's it. And the funny one was, don't ever touch somebody else's car there. You don't do that. Like if you have a package you're delivering, you're supposed to put it in you just lay the package down, let them put it in the car, don't touch the car. It's just one of those things that we just want to be familiar with. Now, I don't know, how would they feel about an Avis rental car?
Well,
I mean, would they really bother you if you touched their rental car, or they just, is it just their
probably
personal?
not.
Yeah.
I think, but I think they really have a love affair with their
absolutely.
autos.
Absolutely.
A totally different attitude. Last country.
No, wait. Oh, we got to do some questions. If
sorry about
Cheyenne
that.
can
Yeah.
check for us.
Cheyenne, did we have any questions?
So we had a comment from somebody to make sure to mention that the circle with your fingers does not mean okay and can be offensive.
Well, we're
Yeah.
It depends on which country. That's what we were talking about.
We're going to talk about that.
We talked
even
about
now.
that. It's the first thing that comes up on the next screen.
But thank you for mentioning that. That's great. Yeah.
And no other questions.
Okay, thanks.
My hard and fast rules, and people who know me know I have a lot of rules. But anyway, no gestures because they don't translate.
Yeah, be very, very
Be
careful.
very, very careful. I supervised a group once to Italy and another to France. Gestures can create real problems. With teenagers, it's really an issue.
We'll get there when we go to the next one.
Here's about France. France is a country that I love. The first thing is the thumbs up gesture. This means zero. The circling your thumb with your index finger means zero in France. Thumbs up means thumbs up. Slapping, if you slap with an open palm over a closed fist, that is considered a vulgar gesture. So you need to avoid that. And here's the thing with gestures. There are some people who talk with their hands and they're very used to doing that's going to be really difficult for you. Can't put them in your pocket.
And if you go like this, you're in trouble.
Yeah. So sit on your hands.
Sit on your hands. Do something. Tie them.
That's right.
Sew them to your jacket.
Yeah, in France, they're still rather deferential in business to women. It is not considered a condescending gesture, but they are a little more civil and considerate, and that is considered simply part of the cultural norm. If you want to ask for the check, you make a writing gesture. You don't call people over. We already talked about le baiser, the air kiss, the gentle touch. Usually it's not touching the cheeks any longer, and I have no idea if that's done, to be honest, with masks. Gum chewing is a no-no across the board. So, I mean, if there were 5 things I would say do without, this is one of them. Just don't get yourself into that situation. Men will still frequently stand when someone enters the room. They are trained in schools to do those other gestures that probably you have to be my age to remember when they used to make you do that. Eye contact is still very important, but there is a strict hierarchy for decisions. There will still be the need to want to run a decision by somebody else who might be an elder, a superior, more experienced, or whatever. So with France, I know that there are people that are very negative. I'm not one. I think if you go there understanding them and being a little more humble, because they do think we're a little arrogant. No,
Just a little.
you know, I think that usually they'll try to help you if you display to them that you care enough.
Yeah, I think you kind of bring up a real interesting point about the French culture, and that's if you go to France, don't be the ugly American. You want to go to France, they expect you to attempt their language, and they expect you to try to adopt into their culture. Yeah. And one of the things you've got to learn to speak Versace and what's my other one that I always Dior. Chanel. This is their culture.
They love.
Yes, absolutely, and it's very, very important. And we kind of skip through some of these, but one of the things that you've got to be very aware of is your dress. Mm-hmm. They expect, I mean, it's nothing to wear a linen suit, linen shirt, nice cufflinks, the dress, the nice watch. These are all expectations.
And in our country, we judge, I don't know if I'm giving away this farm here, but no. Many, many times, I have one friend, who's a friend of yours too, judges all gentlemen by the shoes.
Shoes is a big
thing. Big deal. And, I was with this person who's a little older and said to me, "Did you notice that person's shoes?" And I said, "Oh, really?" Yes, I don't even want to, no, I'm not interested in even meeting them. And with women, it's sometimes their purses and the accoutrements and things like that. In France, I think Brett is talking about something extremely important. They just believe in real quality and nice things and not lots of them.
Exactly. In other words, it's
quality, not quantity.
Quality, not quantity, but the quality is very, very important. Yep. And French is very important. Their style, so those are just some things you want to be well aware of. Conversation in France is an art. Now listen, I've been to Paris at least twice, 3 times now, and you have to try. Now you might butcher the heck out of it, but you have to try. There's a huge difference between northern France and southern France. In Paris, if you get in a cab and you attempt to, in French, try to explain where you want to go, you might be just cut off, snubbed, not even talked to in Paris. And then again, you might get someone, because you're attempting and trying, they'll try to help you. And they'll be, listen, that's a people thing, and you never know what you're going to get. It's a very, very large city. But honestly, if you get into southern France, the people are as genuine and as friendly as you could possibly imagine. And they would love to work with you and help you, with the language, but you definitely want to at least attempt, okay? So that's something, don't go there, be the ugly American, and no, I won't get into that, because I'm known for going to Paris and going to McDonald's. I have a very good friend. I have a very good friend who says, "No, I went and had a Grand Mac." So those are just some of the things, but you really want to be careful. They love debating, and I don't care if it's facts or feelings. Those are some of the things that you want to do. Chit chat's considered kind of a waste of time, and they really want substantive conversation. Is really what they're looking for. You really want to avoid, honestly, I always have left out anything that has anything to do with the United States. Let them talk about France, because if you certainly don't want to get into politics about the U.S. or anything, because you could certainly bring up just a deal stopper right off the bat by trying to discuss it. If they ask a specific question, you might even want to tailor your answer, kind of going around Robin's barn, to not be as specific or direct. That might give some political view or might give some sway to we're better than that or whatever, when dealing with U.S. And it goes to it. If you try your French and it's really, really bad, just apologize for it. And most of the time, they will try to help you. And like I say, it seems, and I don't want to say this, but it's like the larger cities you go to, it's almost, isn't that the case in this country? Even, but go to a small town, everybody's kind of going to go out of their way to help you. I went to Chamonix in southern France and skied Mont Blanc, and you couldn't have asked for more friendly people.
And they ski with wine.
Yes, they carry their flag, they ski with their wine, and you know, and they'll share.
We should not have mentioned that.
I know, probably not, because that's not a good idea for you.
No.
You don't want to do that.
Don't.
So their language is very formal versus familiar. And when you get into, when you take the CIPS designation courses, you'll learn about high context and low context countries. And this has a bearing on all these issues and things that we're talking about. And it's something to be well aware of and to understand. They might get into a high-pitched, fast-speaking voice, which just relates to their excitement about the subject or whatever. And they're ethnocentric, so they easily will reject ideas and things that are not French. So it's just some things you want to be aware of.
Good. In terms of the business applications, French tend to be strong negotiators. They might be quiet or they might not be quiet, but they do tend to be strong negotiators. No is strong, and they're not afraid to say that. With business cards, handle them with care, and again, they have a great deal of cultural respect for learning, education, training, etc., and that should be displayed on your card. They also will...
Let me just stop. One thing I think about business cards, because a lot of people, are really confused because, wow, if I'm dealing with Asia, I'm going to hand my card like this. One of the things you definitely want to do is get in the practice of business card. Nothing wrong with doing it here. That if I'm dealing with a customer, two things. One, I should have a nice case that I have my business card in, and use that. But the second thing is with the business card, when I'm doing my presentation or I'm in it and we've exchanged business cards, you want to lay the business card on the table in front of you, or the people sitting at the table. I think that's just a good habit to get into, because then it doesn't make any difference which of these cultures you're dealing with. Right. If the business card is important, that's something that you really want to be aware of the faux pas that you could do by messing with it. You definitely don't want to ever stick it in your back pocket. And personally, I hold mine out almost all the time until the meeting's over and they're gone, and then I'll put it where I want to keep it, and do it that way.
It's important, an important mechanism for them. Please understand that French love to converse, they love to debate, as Brett said. They're going to raise any and all objections. That does not mean they expect you to respond to every one of those objections. They just kind of think out loud. That's how they process. The best meeting times for them, 11 to 3:30, and they tend to discuss any really delicate issue before the meeting, rather than the goal is not to raise an issue that would be embarrassing. If I needed to discuss something with Brett, I would call him ahead of time and say, this is the situation, this is the issue. Character is very important. We stayed in France quite a bit. My husband's fluent in French, and we've lived there, he's studied there. Right now, they still do a handwriting analysis as a screening for employment, which for us seems kind of really just strange, but they believe that does tell us quite a bit about a person, and I'll leave that up to you. I don't really know. They love, as Brett said, haute couture, fashion. They love perfume. They love food. They do not eat to live. They live to eat. They show enthusiasm for the creation of food. It's considered part of their culture that's so important, and it's not a matter of how quickly can I get this on the table. It's a matter that I'm going to show you, Brett, how much I respect you by investing my time to prepare this special food for you. If you are trying to go to have a drink with someone to discuss business, don't go to a cafe. You won't be able to hear anyone, and we won't be able to hear each other. If you have a need to meet with a meal for business, whoever initiates that invitation is the one who pays the bill. They don't have this whole idea of Dutch, everything, the bill's divided kind of thing. Again, privacy. Their home is private. Knock, wait for permission. Public rooms are different from private rooms. No business meeting, business gifts rather, at the first meeting. If you have a gift at all, you do not do it when you first meet somebody. If you are attending an event and you had a host or hostess gift, that's different. And you do that at the start of a party, but please be careful. Don't give, they have very strong feelings about what certain flowers mean. So stay away from those if you're not sure. Do not give them wine, please, because their wine is their wine, and it's the best. They always still expect a written thank you right away the next day. And I personally think it should be handwritten, but I understand that not everybody agrees. But there's nothing more powerful than a handwritten note.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I think that definitely is a key point. Okay, get prepared because hope you're hungry. Their meals will last as much as 7 courses. One of the things you want to make sure you never do is don't ever cut the brie. Okay, that's just it'll be sliced, it'll be ready for you, or put on whatever you do it. It's just a no-no. Again, expectations, just like we talked about Germany and stuff. You want to make sure that you use your utensils correctly. And you want to eat slowly. And you want to show them that you're saving the food. Nothing wrong with moaning and telling how good the food is. Those are kind of expectations when we're dealing with French. We were really fortunate. NABOR had people, a group of 7 from France, come here after the Miami Congress for kind of a mini inbound trade mission, and we were able to take them around and show them Naples and everything else. But when it came to the time when we sat down and had dinner with them, it was phenomenal. I mean, they loved it, and believe me, it was a long dinner.
My friend from France came here, and we took her to a restaurant, and it was very bad experience because, of course, the French people believe you have one sitting at a restaurant, whereas in our culture, it's more or less, let's get these people finished and get this table going. She was very offended by that.
Rushed out.
She felt very rushed, and so just be cognizant of that, I think.
And I think that the next point up here is how you place your knife and fork on a plate when you're finished. Varies a lot between even just these 4 countries, so it's just something you want to be aware of. One thing I think we both teach when we're doing the CIP, you cannot be the all to be all. No. Okay, you want to be the expert on one of these countries. To try to do them all is like trying to sell in 5 states in the United States. It's impossible to know the market well enough to be able to do that. And you certainly want to be on top of these things. This stuff we're talking about is the basics. This is just the general. You really need to know this. And when we get to the next country, I'm going to bring up something, and I think the leadership of this country and some of the state representatives from this country need to take courses like this because the United States has committed some huge faux pas that that are embarrassing for the country, and that's what you don't want to do. You want people to know that you're aware of their culture, and that's pretty much what we're trying to
show respect.
Show respect, absolutely.
It's important.
There's cheese at the end of every meal, and that's always part of it. Usually some fruit and everything with that. They don't serve hard liquor as a pre-meal. Okay, there is no smoking between courses, and some of the countries are now getting to the point.
A ban.
Britain now
banned it in
has
06.
been like since 06. So it's been almost 14 years now that that they just don't allow smoking.
And we can't go with you if you're traveling.
Right. So we can't go tell you all this stuff. You're gonna have to learn it. Well, if you bought a ticket, I think we might put it in the calendar if they paid for it.
Send us an email.
Yeah, send us an email. We'll talk about it. Okay, so it's kind of like the Old Boy Network, and that's vital. In other words, how things are done. Don't want to say bribery or anything, but you can get things done with the right connections, and you want to make those correct connections if you're trying to do something in business other than say just have someone coming over here and trying to sell. But you got to think, this is the culture they're from, so if they come here, they might think the same thing, okay? So it's just some things you want to be aware of. They're formal and reserved. Being casual is a no-no. they do not go in their shorts and t-shirt and go somewhere, no matter if they're just stepping out of the house, it's the dress and everything else. There are strict hierarchies for their decision process. Even when within the family, there are going to bounce things off. And again, you might not be able to ascertain just right off from working with a couple who's the decision maker. They might be doing this in private because they might not be so public with that. So just some things to be aware of. Men are gallant towards women, and it's not considered, condescending. So there's still opening the door.
Yeah, don't get
don't get emotional, and you want to be careful. Allow the gentleman to open your door. Those kind of things, ladies, if you're in that situation. Again, dress is important. We kind of covered that. Loyalty is valued. A customer complaining in a restaurant is not going to be listened to because they're going to look at their employee as being a more loyal person. So it's just some things you want to be aware of. They take extreme pride in their heritage, their food, their wine, their clothing, their democracy, the government, their health care, you name it, just everything is. They're extremely prideful people, and you have to have an understanding and respect for that. Or you can find yourself, in a situation that you might not want to be. Lunch is important. It generally will last between 1 to 1.5 hours, and usually, again, at dinner will run sometime between 8 and 9 p.m. So you're going to have to adjust your dining habits, as a general rule. Same thing with some of the other three. Canada's pretty much on ours, but the other three that we're talking about today, you're going to have to watch. Local stores have a relationship first. There's no deference to strangers and stuff, which I thought was kind of interesting, when you really think about it. If somebody walks into a store and you're standing there in line, if they have a customer who is loyal to them, they're going to step up and take them right off the bat. So, don't be alarmed if you find that kind of activity or action from somebody. Again, I think we already kind of covered some of this. The initiator of the meal is the one who will pay for it. Yep. Non-ethnic restaurants are prized. Those French restaurants are French restaurants. Those are the ones that that they're really looking for. You went through the privacy, dressing being important, powerful. Yeah, I think you got to never remove your own jacket or tie first. Okay, kind of same thing.
I know we've just told you about 1,000 or 2,000 different things, but we're just trying to give you some, beginning points.
And the fact that let's do some more research on our own.
Absolutely.
You could Google any of this. You could find out any of this stuff. General information everywhere.
Right.
Honestly, can't say it enough times. The CIPS designation program has all this in it, and you'll have a book that you get with it that covers it. And it'll give you sites that you can go check and verify and see what's the latest news. Cheyenne, we got any questions before Pat starts with the UK?
We do have one. We have a question. How do you put your hands on the table?
Like this.
Not elbows.
Yeah, not elbows, okay? You just, you lay
Brett
your
and I
hands
were
on the
going to
table.
act all this out.
Yeah, we were going to act it out, but we can't with the little screen.
Yeah. So we were going to sort of act it out, but...
So there's a couple countries, and certainly when we get into the Arabic world, you want to make sure you have to have your hands visible all the time.
Right.
So if the table was here, I would have my hands on the table like this.
But no elbows.
But not your elbow
like
and not leaning or anything like that. Just they would be on the table. Cupped, whatever. It's not a problem. Just you want them above the table and on the table.
Anything else, Cheyenne?
That was all. Thank you.
Okay. Last but not least, the UK. Before we go into talking about the UK, we want to just talk a little bit about the words. There's the UK, which is the United Kingdom. There's Britain. There's Wales, Northern Ireland, and then there are other parts of Scotland, and then there are other related constituencies. So make sure you're using the correct terminology. Brits get very offended if you use the wrong terminology. Again, they're a little more formal. No touching, back slaps, arms, shoulders, wider, a little bit wider personal space. They really are rather, and you see that whole sort of, quote, stiff upper lip, unquote, type of posture, no excessive hand gestures, very different when you're in Italy from when you're in Britain. Very, very, very different. Males are still deferential toward females, and again, it is not considered condescending, and I'm not telling people to believe or not believe in feminist whatever. All I'm saying is culturally, they tend to be a little more deferential. And they may ask, how do you do, but they don't expect you to answer that. Oh, I'm really, I was having a pain.
They don't want to hear it. They don't hear it.
No, just how do you do is kind of hello, and that's it. No hands in pockets. It's really considered rude unless you're retrieving something, as Brett did when he was retrieving his card. That, if you retrieve something or whatever, but no hands in your pockets. Eye contact is very important. And mirroring. When in doubt, if you can't remember something, mirror. Don't do anything. Don't use gestures, and at the end we'll talk a little bit about colors as well. Don't use those if you're not sure. Light handshake, usually. They don't point with one finger. That's considered rude in the culture. And again, please, if you have to have a posture or an arrangement when you're sitting, just cross at your ankles. And don't do the other. The V is the victory sign. And again, make sure these mean two different things. Palm in and palm out mean two different things, and you can be in your own world and have the deal fall out from underneath everything. If you tap your nose, that's the little gesture or signal for keep that a secret. It's sub rosa in their culture.
So I wanted to wait until we got to Britain to talk about this, but there was an article that was in the front page of the USA Today. This goes back to when President Bush, the second Bush, was president, and he was in London getting onto Air Force One, and he's standing at the top of the plane, and he meant to go victory like this, but instead he went like this to the people in London, and they just fell aghast, because that is the same thing as ours with just the middle finger. So, you really, really, really want to watch the gestures. And, for someone as a leader of a country to not have known this is, that's just like almost unacceptable, I would think. So if we're talking jargon here and I say shout around, that means we're going to buy a round for everybody in there. You want to definitely avoid controversy when we're dealing with this, and we did this already. So don't ask where you're from, because their accent will tell you where they're from. Okay, so you'll know the difference between Scottish, Irish, Brits. Their accent will definitely tell you, who and where they're from. They're very, very personal people, and you do not want to get into questioning or being intrusive. Very, very much like the Germans. We want to watch what questions we're asking and relate them only to our transaction and our business. Let's don't get into anything personal, and we want to be careful about how many questions we ask. Obviously, and I would say this is probably the case, I don't care where you are, whenever you're dealing with foreign direct investment in real estate, whenever you're dealing with someone from Georgia, whenever you're dealing with someone from Florida, you don't want to talk about politics, religion, work ethics, or royal. And in Britain, you don't want to talk about royalty. Okay?
Yeah, especially there are people who are pro monarchy, and others against it. You don't want to get involved.
And you don't want to get into the politics of the parties within either, because that can be huge. Use full sentences. Don't shorten things up and quick answers or something. Don't participate in their complaints or criticisms. If they're saying something, let them say what they're saying. Don't add on to it. Don't make it any worse than whatever it is. Again, we want to use our honorary titles and surnames, as needed. And do not say yes, sir. We want to use the proper title, like yes, Minister of Finance, so and so, or yes, Minister such and such. Punctuality and preparation are very, very important. Okay, so we don't want to go in there and wing it, and we want to definitely make sure we're there on time.
Good. So essentially, we're in a facts and data environment. They're really interested in the facts, the data that have accumulated over several years oftentimes. No puffery, no exaggeration or misrepresentation, which we know you wouldn't do anyway. But they have this notion that if we question excessively, that it can become intrusive. So sort of avoid that. Just go with that.
There's always a good plan of action for that. I know the ABR course has some great one-pages that you might want to provide a customer, especially a customer from another country, beforehand, that will explain about mortgage, how the process. It'll explain about why you want a buyer's representative. So you don't have to ask these questions. You can provide them beforehand all the information they might need. That just kind of helps that.
As a CIP, as a global person, when I had my team of 4, we had all of the terms of real estate in this country translated into the target languages, because they look at us and we think they don't know blessed.
Totally different
we're
different
talking
systems.
about,
Yeah, totally different
condos, townhouses, coach homes. They don't know what we're talking about, and they just shake their head and they look lovely. And they want us to like them, so they're fine. The UK folks are polite. They use the European system, but they have their own. They did not go onto the euro, and right now they're just looking at leaving the European Union, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen and transpire as a result of that.
January
Don't get
yeah.
involved in those
No.
types of political discussions. However, they are used to really, I mean, you've seen television shows with the debates in the houses there. They really go after each other. So you don't want to get involved in that. Don't try to use a hard sell with them. They're used to dealing with estate agents, and usually their estate agents deal with either new construction only, over here, or resale. That's what they're used to. You need to educate them as to what our process is. Always allow the customer to end the meeting. And breakfast in the UK is not considered typical for a business type of meeting. It's usually a lunch. Smoking has been banned there since '06, so it's sort of disappearing. They don't work after hours. Let me say that again. They don't work after hours.
Can we move?
Isn't that wonderful? Really, they don't really appreciate gifts so much. They would rather have you invite them out to a restaurant, possibly for a meal. But please understand, these cultures are older than our culture, and they really do separate work from non-work. And I'm not sure that they haven't got it right.
They probably have it right. We just haven't caught on yet. We're a few hundred years behind them.
Yeah.
So it makes a big difference. So there's some other things we want to watch out for. Table manners are very, very important when we're passing. We pass food to the left. Again, use the correct flatware. Use the left hand for the fork. No elbows or hands. No elbows on the table, hands above the table, okay? So same kind of a situation we talked about France. It's an insult to call an Irish citizen a Brit. So you want to be very, very careful about the Brits, the Scottish, the Wales, the Welsh, and the Brits. You know, that everybody in the UK everybody's part of the UK, but only Britain are Brits, okay?
Right.
So we just want to kind of keep that square. They have a constitutional monarchy. Probably a good idea to kind of understand that a little bit. Not necessarily have to do it.
I don't know if you can see
Pat's
it.
got a hand up.
Can you see that?
Yeah, you can do it like this. This is
Kiss
Terry
Bow.
Morrison's book called Kiss Bow or Shake Hands, and it helps you go through all these things we're talking about, plus a lot more. We'll talk about the government and some other things there. So very, very key. What did I do? I'm hitting the same things you had. No smoking?
No, I think you're okay. Yeah, I think some of it is
Okay,
a little
it's
bit
just repeated.
repetitious.
Okay, yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Punctuality, dinners, if limited to...
Yeah,
okay,
just talk about
the
these
gifts,
flowers and stuff again.
All right, so if we have any questions out there, Cheyenne, I know we're running over time, but I hope everybody's getting some information here that's valuable.
Give us some
too.
feedback. Is this helpful for you? Because Brett and I were trying to be really specific, because sometimes we just talk in these generalities and
And there's so many of these programs available to everybody out there right now. I think just, 2 days ago, there was a thing on Canada.
Yep.
With Zoom right now, everybody can stay at home and just watch your laptop all day long and get over-Zoomed and zoomed out by all these programs. But there's a ton of educational opportunities out there. We're just hoping this is of value to you.
Any questions, Cheyenne?
Not at this time, but we
Okay.
do have some comments saying great presentations.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
that's always good. We like that. We just wanted to end with this chart. We tried to include, but it has to be printed landscape, and it's very difficult to read. So I just wanted to encourage you, and Brett is going to end with giving you some website information. This is what's called the International Color Chart and the symbolism. And I just want to call to your attention a little bit, just a couple of facts about it. As far as the worldwide use of color, the most popular color worldwide is blue. The second, green and red, 2. The third, orange. Fourth, brown. 5, purple. Yellow, folks, is the least favorite color in the entire world. Now, in each of these countries, Canada, Germany, France, and the UK, Britain and the UK, there is a favorite color. In Canada, the favorite color is blue. And the colors signify different emotions sometimes. In Germany, the favorite color is red. France is blue. And the UK is blue. So 3 out of the 4 are blue. But here is what I would like you to sort of remember as a general fact. Avoid idioms that use color. For example, in the USA, we say, oh, gee, Brett, I'm blue today. He knows what I mean by that, right? That does not translate to another culture.
Country, yeah.
So avoid any idioms that use color like that. We have a color we associate in the US with envy, jealousy. That does not translate, I can tell you that right now, to the other cultures. So avoid idioms that use color. You also, if you avoid that, please avoid political party colors, which can get you in a lot of trouble. And there are always national colors, but I want you to understand that people in different cultures view color in a really different way from the way we do.
And I think an important response here for you on your part is if you're going to market to one of these countries,
Yeah.
you want to use that color scheme that they're there. So what we did was we put that in here as a website. That color chart can be downloaded on 6degrees.com, 6-degrees.com, and you want to download the International Color Symbolism Chart. It's in a PDF, and then you can print it and look at it and get a little bit better view,
Yeah,
because I know that was a little bit tough.
We tried.
Just a couple other websites we put on here. Listen, if you ever have any questions, it's free to you. NAR has got the right tools right now, programs that are helping you out so much that if you just go to nar.realtor/global, you will be able to find just a plethora of information out there about global business.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to bring up about Canada, and I knew I'd left it out.
Korea.
Yeah, well, Korea, but not only Korea, Canada
Yeah.
is the only other country in the world that calls their real estate professionals realtors. Everybody in the United States is not a realtor, obviously. They can be a real estate professional. But if they join the National Association of Realtors, they are a realtor. In Canada, they have the Canadian Association of Realtors, and that is CREA, the Canadian Real Estate Association. They are realtors in that country. Now, everybody says, well, wait a second. I know somebody from Swaziland that's a realtor, or calls themselves a realtor. What's wrong with that? Well, it's very possible that what they are is they took the CIPS course in Swaziland. They became an international realtor member with the National Association of Realtors, which means that they are abiding by the code of ethics from that country that was created for them by the National Association of Realtors. With that, then they are called an IRM, an International Realtor Member, and they can be called a realtor. So those are the places that you will hear that, just for that clarification. Phenom is France's site. The Times.com UK the UK site. If you want to research anything that you can't find in the books for Kiss, Bow, or Shake Hands, or some of the other books that Terry Morrison has done, check with CIA.gov.
That is
The one
just
thing
the best.
we always joke around about it is we always ask the question when we're in the class. I said, okay, who do you think knows more about anybody and everything than any other source? And you go, well, the CIA, of course, and they have their own website and they publish all the information they find out about all these other countries, and that's why
And it's up to
great
date.
research. It's always up to date.
So
Yeah.
really, I mean, I can't tell you enough. You should really go on that.
Yeah, that's always a real key there. So I'm just going to leave these up here. Again, I think it's been recorded. I want to thank everybody for attending with. Thank you, Pat,
Thank you,
for
Brett.
helping here. I think it was a great program, and thank you, Isabella, for allowing us to do this presentation.
And thank you, Cheyenne.
Yes, Cheyenne.
For being our ace in the hole. Problem solver.
Thank you, Brett and Pat. It was a great presentation. Yes, we are recording. And I also would like to invite all of you to our next events in October. We will have October 15, Crystal Silver, who is NAR Global Ambassador to Austria and Germany, talk about real estate, how it's performed there. And we will have German cooking demonstration with chef of Black Forest Restaurant. And October 21st, we will have Maria Grulich, Florida Realtors Director of Operation, and we will have representation from Money Corp as well, talking about money exchange and the impact of COVID-19 right now. So thank you everyone for attending, and see you soon in October.
Palms out, palms out.